They taped over my name on the office door before I even made it back from lunch. 20 years of service, erased with a single strip of printer paper and a half-assed piece of Scotch tape. And the best part? They misspelled the new guy's name. Phillips with one L. That's who replaced me, some wet behind-the-ears MBA with a LinkedIn headshot that looks like he sells real estate in Tampa. I stood there for a second, coffee still warm in my hand, staring at the cheap paper fluttering like a white flag of corporate surrender. I didn't laugh, I didn't cry. I just walked away like the ghost they'd apparently decided I'd become. 2 decades I'd been the quiet spine of this place. Not flashy, not loud, just reliable. Every operating license, every inspection, every compliance filing that kept us from being bulldozed by the state, that was me. Not that anyone cared. Not until they'd try to replace me with someone who thought state compliance was just another checkbox on some dusty spreadsheet. You don't last this long in corporate without learning the art of invisibility. But you also don't last unless you know how to pull every string when the time comes to let the house collapse. Before I go on, if you've ever felt like the walls were shifting around you, like someone was rearranging the furniture of your career while you were still sitting in the chair, do me a favor. Hit the like, maybe even subscribe. I promise you this story gets worse for them and better for us. And honestly, that little button helps more than you know, keeps the stories coming, keeps the tea hot. Now, back to my slow-motion guillotining. The warning signs had been dancing like red flags at a North Korean parade. Ever since the board brought in innovation leadership, I knew it was just a matter of time before the old guard got their pink slips disguised as thank you cards. And sure enough, he arrived, Jordan Pembroke. Yes, that Jordan Pembroke. Stanford MBA, ex-McKinsey, loud socks, louder mouth. Wore loafers with no socks in December and called it visionary. He brought with him the usual alphabet soup of acronyms, AWKers, KPI-esque day, all tossed into PowerPoints that said absolutely nothing, except I Googled this last night. First week, he asked if I could explain the difference between license maintenance and regulatory audit pathways. I told him it was the difference between keeping the lights on and having the state padlock our front doors. He smirked, said I had a charming way with metaphors. Second week, he started hinting that compliance was an area ripe for automation. Third week, I wasn't on the invite list for the leadership retreat in Denver. Fourth week, I got a calendar invite titled Transition Discussion 30 minutes. I didn't need to open it. The smell of blood was already in the air. The thing about being in compliance is, you see the dominoes long before they fall. You have to. I'd seen what happened to other companies that treated their named operators like replaceable printer cartridges. One of them had their entire Texas plant shut down for 3 weeks because someone fat-fingered a renewal date. Another one? The CEO tried to forge the signature of a fired compliance officer, ended up with a state investigation and a $3 million fine. And yet, here we were. Jordan with his boy band confidence and his TED talk diction, staring me down like he was doing me a favor. I walked into that meeting room, gray walls, fake fern in the corner, speakerphone blinking like a heartbeat. He didn't even look up at first, just kept typing. Then he smiled like a dentist about to pitch you on veneers, said he appreciated my years of contribution but the organization was evolving and needed leaner, more agile frameworks. I waited. Then he said it, your operating license is no longer essential to the way we're structured. That one sentence hit harder than a punch. Not because it was true, it wasn't. Because it was dumb. Dangerously dumb. See, the company doesn't hold that license. I do, it's in my name. I'm the named operator for 3 states under a statute that hasn't been reviewed since before Y2K. That license isn't transferable. It isn't shareable. There's no backup operator. If I revoke it, the lights don't just flicker, they die. But I didn't say any of that. I just smiled, nodded, and placed my badge on the table like I was folding in a poker game. Jordan said something about exit interviews and future references. I don't remember. My ears were buzzing. Not from anger, but from clarity. It was over. The mask could come off. I walked out, straight past the HR generalist who couldn't meet my eyes, past the break room where someone had written Taco Tuesday in dry erase marker. I didn't even stop at my desk. Let them figure it out. Let them try to log into the compliance dashboard with their shiny new consultant passwords. Let them think the machine runs itself. I stepped into the sunlight, the door shutting behind me like the end of a sermon, pulled out my phone, opened my calendar, found the entry, renew license auto report to state, deleted it. Then I walked to the cafe across the street and ordered a cappuccino. 2 shots. No foam. The kind of coffee you drink when your world's about to burn, and you want to watch it happen with clear eyes. He folded his hands like a priest delivering last rites, except priests usually have the decency to look you in the eye. Jordan Pembroke sat behind that faux wood desk, probably IKEA, but he called it Scandinavian design, like he was hosting a TED talk on strategic redundancy. I'd barely closed the door behind me when he launched into it. First off, he said, clasping his hands, I just want to express my gratitude for everything you've done over the years. Truly, you've been a pillar, an invisible one, but solid. He smiled at that like it was a compliment. My jaw clenched so tight I could feel it click. I didn't sit. That seemed to rattle him slightly. So he continued, as part of our operational modernization effort, we're sunsetting a few legacy roles. Not because the people weren't valuable, but because the structure itself no longer requires certain, Modalities. He paused like I might thank him for the poetry. This includes the compliance operations director role. Still, I said nothing, just stared. And just to reassure you, he added, leaning back now like he was doing me a favor, your operator license, while appreciated, is no longer essential to the new organizational model. We're moving toward a decentralized framework. I nearly laughed. Decentralized framework. The man couldn't tell a compliance certificate from a sandwich wrapper, but he'd read a book or a blog post somewhere, and now he was Moses parting the corporate seas. I wanted to say, you're standing on a trapdoor you don't even know exists, but I didn't. I nodded once, slow and deliberate, like I was digesting a fine wine instead of bile. He slid a bland manila envelope across the desk. This includes your exit paperwork, HR contact, and some very generous transition support. We'd love to stay in touch for consulting opportunities, of course. I took the envelope without looking inside, placed my badge on the desk beside it, and said the only words I'd utter that morning, best of luck. Jordan smiled, relieved, maybe, and reached for the envelope like he was going to show me the severance amount. I turned before he could speak again and walked out, past the assistant pretending to be on a call, past the break room microwave still caked with last week's spaghetti explosion, past the framed mission statement in the hallway that said things like integrity and empowerment in Helvetica font. No one stopped me. No one said goodbye. I didn't take the stairs. I wanted the elevator. I wanted the full, awkward descent surrounded by interns holding Starbucks and middle managers trying not to make eye contact. I wanted them to feel my presence without understanding it, to wonder if maybe they'd missed something, if maybe the woman in the corner office they'd never thought about had just taken something important with her. I stepped outside into air that felt sharper than usual, like the world had turned up the contrast just for me. I walked toward the cafe again, heels clicking against the concrete like punctuation. Inside, I claimed the same table by the window. My hands shook. Not from fear, not from regret, from restraint. There's a quiet rage that doesn't need shouting. The kind that vibrates just beneath the skin, waiting for the moment it's useful. I pulled out my phone, no new messages, good. I opened the state regulatory portal. My login still worked, of course it did. I was the named operator. You don't just click transfer on that like it's a Netflix account. One more login, one more step. I clicked the option that read, voluntary revocation of active license. A warning banner popped up. This action will notify all associated facilities of immediate noncompliance and initiate suspension protocols pending new named operator assignment. I hovered for a moment, clicked, no pop-up, no confirmation email, just a cold system response, request received, revocation processed. I sat back and exhaled through my nose, calm and quiet like I'd just put down a rabid dog. My inbox pinged. First came the system confirmation from the State Licensing Bureau, then came the out-of-office reply from Jordan's admin. Apparently she was at a team wellness retreat, perfect. Then a third email. This one made me grin. It was a read receipt from the executive assistant to the board chairman. Subject line, FYI compliance memo 2022, 2 years ago. I'd sent them a memo, flagged the clause, warned them that I and only I held the key to the legal operation of 3 multi-million-dollar facilities. No reply then, not even a thanks. But now someone had finally opened it. I flagged it for fun. Then I deleted every auto reminder tied to my license renewal. Let the machine crash on its own time. I'd done my part, and I hadn't even raised my voice. The cappuccino was bitter. It burned the beans again, like they always did on Wednesdays when that college kid with the lip piercing ran the espresso machine like he was trying to kill it. I didn't care. The bitterness suited the moment. I sat with the cup in front of me, untouched, watching the steam curl like smoke off a slow fuse. It was 8:42 a.m. I'd been terminated for exactly 53 minutes. My laptop sat open like a weapon I wasn't supposed to have anymore. IT hadn't revoked my access yet, typical. They were probably still digging through JIRA tickets about printer visibility and VPN won't connect. Meanwhile, I was logged into the administrative dashboard that ran our compliance infrastructure like a surgeon in an unguarded OR. The first email was easy. To the state regulator, subject line, voluntary revocation of named operator certification, immediate. I attached the license number, the facility codes, my digital signature. One click and 3 multi-state operations were now in violation of active statute 11.3.2. A mouthful of legalese that boiled down to, you can't run without me. The system auto-confirmed within seconds. The language was cold, legal, bureaucratic. Effective immediately, operator license #C923XX for company name has been deactivated. Notification sent to associated regional compliance bodies. Second email, Compliance Dependency Memo March 2022. I found the original memo in my archives, the one I'd sent 2 years ago when the board started sniffing around automation options. It was 5 pages of dry, state-sourced statute references, flowcharts, and timelines, all circling one simple point. The company's legal right to operate in 3 states is tied solely to my name, my license, and my continued active oversight. This is non-delegible and not transferable. I attached the memo to a new message, addressed it to the board chairman's executive assistant, Paula, sweet woman, still signs her emails with warmest regards like it's 1998, and wrote a single sentence. In case this becomes relevant today. Hit send, then I opened my calendar and scrolled to the monthly recurring event that had been there since 2005. Renew license auto reports to state, delete. A little thrill ran through me as it disappeared. Not glee, not spite. Just a profound, echoing silence, like a machine powering down in an empty warehouse. Across town, Jordan Pembroke was doing his morning victory lap. According to the company's Slack, still logged in again, thanks IT. He just wrapped a streamlining sync with the senior leadership team. Someone posted a screenshot of him on Zoom with the caption, Operation Trim the Fat equals success. He looked like a smug weasel in a Brooks Brothers suit. Even his hair seemed to be smirking. He was already scheduling press about efficiency realignment, tossing out phrases like modern agility and reducing operational drag. I knew what would come next. He'd probably recommend a vendor, some overpriced consulting firm his Stanford roommate now ran to optimize compliance workflows. And while he was at it, he'd have no idea that we were no longer legally compliant in the eyes of the state. No license, no named operator, no legal authorization to process a single unit in 3 entire regions. My phone buzzed. A LinkedIn notification. Jordan Pembroke posted an update. Thrilled to help usher in a leaner, more responsive era at company name. Our best days are ahead. I stared at it like it was a toddler juggling knives. You'd think someone would have checked. You'd think maybe, just maybe, before terminating the only person keeping the red tape from strangling the company, they would have asked what exactly the red tape was holding back. But arrogance has a funny way of blinding you to fuse wires. I logged out of the dashboard, wiped the browser history, closed the laptop, sat back in my seat and finally sipped the cappuccino. Still bitter, still burned, still perfect. Let the fire come. By 9 a.m., the compliance inbox in legal was already pinging like a microwave with a seizure. The interns thought it was just another license renewal deadline or maybe a clerical check-in, until Melissa, the firm's in-house counsel, opened the first email and went completely still. Subject line, request for verification of named operator status, immediate attention required. Sender, State Compliance Bureau, Office of Regulatory Oversight. Melissa read it twice, then flagged it urgent and forwarded it to legal's group thread with the kind of subject line that gets partners twitching. Can someone confirm current named operator? She didn't know it yet, but she'd just opened the first vein. Upstairs in conference room C, weekly ops call was in full swing. Jordan was in rare form, shirt just tight enough to look fit, sleeves rolled for faux approachability, voice writing that annoying high wire between faux humble and performance review smarm. He stood in front of a whiteboard with a dry erase marker and had just drawn a lopsided triangle to explain how legacy structures trap momentum. I mean, the old model was basically a labyrinth, he said, grinning. We needed someone to hold our hand through every gate just to get to market. It's 2025. We need to run, not crawl. Laughter, polite, nervous, especially from those who'd known me more than 5 minutes. A few glanced at my usual video tile on Zoom, dark, name grayed out, the same blank space that had been there since 8:01. Diana not joining? Someone asked. She's no longer part of the operational framework, Jordan replied, uncapping another marker with flair. We're simplifying. Another awkward silence. Across the screen, one of the junior analysts, Sammy, probably 3 years out of undergrad and still drinking the corporate Kool-Aid, tilted his head and unmuted. Sorry, just to confirm, has someone else been added to the license for regional compliance? Like, are we covered for California, Ohio, and New Mexico? Jordan smiled like a man being asked if he remembered to tie his shoes. Sammy, buddy, that's exactly what I mean. We're decentralizing. The entire concept of having one person as the bottleneck is what we're moving past. We've got systems, protocols. We don't need to rely on one name on a government form. That's outdated thinking. Sammy nodded, face flushed. Jordan turned back to the whiteboard, pleased with himself, drew a circle around the triangle and wrote NEWERA in all caps. Down in legal, Melissa had just picked up the phone and was on hold with the state office, pen tapping on her notepad like a Geiger counter. She didn't like this. The statute being referenced in the email, 11.3.2a, wasn't one she'd had to deal with before. That alone was rare. At 9:43 a.m., the state system automatically dispatched its first notice of investigation to HQ. The trigger was simple: a verified revocation with no replacement filed. It flagged the company's status in 3 active regions as non-compliant with state-mandated named operator requirements. The message was short, brutal in its clarity. Your organization has been flagged for operating without an active compliance credential. You are now subject to investigation under penalty of temporary suspension. In the boardroom, no one had seen it yet. Jordan was now talking about flattening hierarchies and eliminating the dependency trap. Somewhere in the middle of that monologue, a middle manager tried to cut in, eyes darting toward her phone. Hey, just got a weird ping from legal. Something about operator credentials? Jordan waved it off like a fly at cookout. Yeah, don't worry. I've got redundancies. Except they didn't. They had buzzwords. Meanwhile, Sammy went quiet, probably already Googling what 11.3.2 A meant and realizing it wasn't something you just submit a help desk ticket for. Melissa finally got through. A state regulator with a voice like gravel confirmed it. As of this morning, your named operator is no longer certified. That leaves your facilities in a state of legal non-operation. Enforcement review is now pending. Melissa barely managed to thank them before hanging up and staring at the wall. That memo, the one Diana had sent 2 years ago, it was real, and now it was relevant. She opened her inbox. The memo was there, time-stamped, received, unread until today. Subject, for future contingency please read. Melissa clicked it open with shaking hands. Across town, in a booth by the window, I finished my cappuccino. Then I ordered another. Double shot, no foam, because it wasn't time yet, but it was close, so close. At 10:15 a.m. sharp, a clipboard-wielding inspector from the State Compliance Bureau walked into our largest client site in Bakersfield and politely told them to shut it all down. Not tomorrow, not by end of day. Now. He handed the site manager a folded printout, yellow carbon copy, and calmly informed her that their active processing permit had been suspended pending verification of an operator license that no longer existed. Tiffany, the field office manager, God bless her, tried reasoning, said it must be a clerical glitch. Asked if he meant suspended soon or suspended like metaphorically. The inspector simply pointed at the line highlighted on the paper, named operator, Diana R., revoked at 0857 EST. That was it. No warmth, no wiggle room, just bureaucratic extinction in Courier new font. Tiffany, who's always been a calm in a crisis type, lost it. She called HQ 5 times in a row before someone finally answered. I wasn't there to hear it, but I can guess the conversation went something like, "What the hell is going on?" Back in conference room C, Jordan was still mid-soliloquy about scalable frameworks and emerging vendor ecosystems when the call from the front desk finally patched through. Tiffany's voice shot out of the speakerphone like a bottle rocket. We've got a full operational freeze, Jordan. The state is physically here. They're threatening fines. They're citing the operator license. They said you should know what that means. Do you? Jordan blinked like someone had just slapped him with a fish. Whoa, okay, slow down. Gesturing to mute the mic like Tiffany could see him through the ceiling. That can't be right. We're fully covered, I was assured. By who? She snapped. Diana's name was on every single credential for the last 15 years, and now I'm hearing she's gone? Jordan's face twitched. The room had gone silent. All the department heads were staring at him like they'd just realized their pilot might be drunk. She was part of an outdated model, he said finally. Legacy personnel. The system doesn't need a single point of failure like that anymore. We have access. We have infrastructure. Melissa from legal barged in without knocking. She was holding a printed copy of my 2022 memo. It looked like it had been run over by a car. Her voice was tight, shaking, but not with fear. With rage, she told us. You were warned. This memo outlines every site dependency, Jordan. The entire digital signature chain routes through her license certificate. Jordan tried to wave her off. We'll just override the login, assign someone else. You can't, she snapped. There is no override. Her license was embedded at the root of the certification pipeline. You can't reassign it like a damn email alias. His jaw flexed. Then get IT. There's always a backdoor. And that's when I smiled, sitting 2 miles away with a biscotti in my hand, watching the Slack panic unfold like a slow-motion train wreck. IT was already on it. I know this because one of the sysadmins, poor Miguel, bless his caffeinated soul, posted in the internal hash compliance deck thread, just tried rolling credentials. Diana's cert isn't linked to a corporate account, it's hard-coded into the validation chain. Her digital signature is tethered to state PKI. We can't spoof it. If we try, it'll flag as tampering. Then came the message that really made my day. A screenshot of the error, error 403, no active operator license on file. Facility status, non-compliant. Auto-report to regulatory body enabled. And finally, from Miguel again, guys, this wasn't just oversight. This was deliberate. She knew what she was doing. I did, because I built it that way. While Jordan scrambled to recover his optics, PR was already being looped in. The marketing director chimed into the call like a ghost being summoned against her will. She had exactly one question. Do we have a statement prepared for clients who are about to lose access to services? No one answered. Then Jordan did what all panicked egomaniacs do when cornered. He blamed the system. Look, he snapped, we've got redundancy. It's just a matter of re-registering credentials. This is a temporary hiccup. Melissa inhaled sharply like she was about to launch a counterstrike. But she didn't have to. Because at that moment, another field office, this one in Columbus, called with the same message. Inspector, shutdown, immediate. Jordan turned pale, sweat beaded on his temple like condensation on a whiskey glass, and still he kept his voice smooth. Let's not overreact, he said, eyes twitching toward the door. We just need a little time. Time was the one thing he didn't have anymore. And neither did the company. By 10:52 a.m., the company's main reception line had been hijacked by a chorus of incoming calls from government area codes. Each with the same message, different voices, all reading from the same legally mandated script. This is to notify your organization that you are currently flagged as non-compliant under statute 11.3.2. You are required to cease operations in affected regions pending reauthorization by a valid named operator. Failure to comply will result in penalties, fines, and potential criminal review. The receptionist, Janine, sweet woman who always brought lemon cookies to holiday parties, was on her fourth sticky notepad, scribbling down callback numbers and phrases she didn't understand. Revocation clause, statutory breach, immediate freeze order. Her hands shook as she held the handset away from her ear like it might bite. Upstairs, the leadership war room smelled like bad cologne and worse decisions. Jordan was pacing now, sweat bleeding through his crisp blue dress shirt, his hair clinging to his forehead like a helmet sliding off in slow motion. Melissa stood in the corner holding the memo like it was a detonator. "Why are we just hearing about this now?" Jordan barked, spinning toward her. Melissa didn't even flinch, because you didn't read it when she sent it. None of you did. She handed him the memo, creased, highlighted, initialed by Diana and timestamped with a paper trail that made it legally bulletproof. Clause 9C, revocation of the named operator certification, voluntary or involuntary, triggers automatic facility suspension in all dependent jurisdictions, with immediate effect. No grace period. Jordan read it 3 times and still looked confused, like a man trying to understand a car crash from inside the windshield. "Can't we just file an emergency reassignment?" he mumbled. Melissa shook her head slowly. "There's no reassignment without a full state audit. The statute doesn't allow retroactive designation. It has to be planned, certified, and filed 30 days in advance. You fired the only person holding the license, and now we're legally frozen." Blinked, lips parting slightly. Then he did what all scared men with corner offices and no backup plan do. He reached for the phone. He dialed my number. I watched it buzz from across the cafe, face down on the table, let it ring. Watched the name pop up on my laptop too, synced from the company directory. Pembroke, Jordan, let it ring again and again. I sipped my coffee slow. Turned the phone over, silenced it, then flipped it back down like a closing statement. He tried again, this time from a blocked number. Didn't matter. My phone had already heard enough from him. Back in the office, Jordan slammed the receiver down hard enough to draw stares. He looked around like someone might have a solution folded in their back pocket. But the silence was thick. Legal had gone mute. IT was huddled in a corner trying to code their way out of a paper wall. PR had left the room completely. The chairman's assistant, Paula, stepped in. Normally she kept her head down, tightly wound bun, cat print blouses, always polite. But now she looked stricken. I just saw the memo Diana sent in 2022, she said, voice shaking. It went to the whole board, including Mr. Harrow. Jordan turned sharply, and he replied, "It's in the thread." He said, "Understood, we'll keep in mind for any future structural changes." The room went dead quiet. Harrow, our board chairman, knew, and if he knew, that meant the guillotine wasn't coming, it was already in motion. Jordan sank into the nearest chair like the bones had drained out of him. His laptop chimed with another incoming email. Then another, then 12, regulators, legal notices, facility alerts, Bakersfield, Columbus, Santa Fe, all offline, all frozen, all screaming for answers no one could give. He muttered something. Melissa leaned in. "What? She planned this," he whispered. Melissa's mouth curled. Not quite a smile, but something adjacent to satisfaction. "Of course she did," she said. "She built the whole damn system. You just never noticed because she didn't make noise?" "Noise? No, I'd never needed noise. I'd had architecture, precision. A license key embedded like a scalpel under the skin of the company's most vital organ. They'd yank me out thinking I was dead weight. They didn't realize I was the only vein keeping the patient alive. So now, let them bleed." At exactly 11:30 a.m., the sliding glass doors at headquarters hissed open and in walked 2 state inspectors flanked by uniformed police officers. Not security guards, not auditors in suits, police. One had a clipboard, the other had handcuffs. Their boots left wet tracks across the polished tile floor, and they didn't pause for questions or coffee. Janine at the front desk froze mid-sip of her Diet Dr. Pepper, nearly choking when she saw the lead officer flash his badge. "State Regulatory Enforcement Division," he said flatly. "We're here to deliver a formal suspension order and initiate site lockdown." He handed over a trifold packet stamped with 2 seals and a scarlet notice label. At the bottom, underlined in state red ink, enforced immediately upon receipt. No exceptions. Janine blinked. Should I call someone?" "Yes," the officer said, unbothered. "Call everyone." She buzzed the executive boardroom. Inside, Jordan was mid-slide, pacing confidently in front of a screen full of recycled jargon. Post-legacy optimization plan phase 2. A looping gif of gears turning played in the corner, as if symbolism could save them now. A half-eaten fruit tray wilted on the credenza beside the coffee machine. He didn't stop when the intercom chirped. "Jordan?" Janine's voice cracked like a warning shot. There are state officers here, with paperwork and police." That got a few heads to swivel. Jordan kept going. "I'm sure it's nothing," he said, clicking to the next slide. "Just a routine compliance check, probably a follow-up on the old reporting structure." Melissa, standing near the window, frowned. Something outside caught her attention. Her brows knitted, then she stepped closer and drew back the sheer curtain. Outside, 2 black and white cruisers sat idling by the curb. One had its flashers still on, painting the white stone walls with lazy pulses of blue and red. She turned slowly and stared at Jordan. "You said it was handled." Jordan's smile faltered for the first time all day. "It is." One of the board members cleared his throat. "Handled how exactly?" Jordan didn't answer. He walked to the door, yanked it open, and nearly collided with Paula, the chairman's assistant, who had gone pale. She was holding her tablet like it weighed 40 pounds. "They're here for this," she said, lifting it to show him the notification. The subject line was unambiguous. Formal enforcement action under 11.3.2a. Suspension of operational certification. Attached was a scanned copy of the signed order, timestamped 11:29 a.m., co-signed by the compliance director of the State Bureau, and just for good measure, a field agent from the Attorney General's office. Jordan's mouth opened, then closed. "Where's Mr. Harrow?" he croaked. "Inbound from New York," Paula said, breathless. "His flight lands in 40, too late." A heavy knock echoed down the hallway. The door to the boardroom opened again, this time from the outside. Two state officers stepped in, followed by one of the inspectors holding a leather-bound binder thick with signatures. His voice was clipped. "Surgical. Which one of you is acting VP of Operations?" Jordan raised his hand like a guilty altar boy. I'm Jordan Pembroke." Inspector nodded. "You're going to need to come with us. We need your signature for acknowledgement of the shutdown order. Your facility is officially suspended from operating in California, New Mexico, and Ohio pending full audit and reassignment of legal operator status." Jordan's mouth moved, but no words came. The room erupted. "What the hell is this? We have clients mid-contract. You fired the license holder?" Melissa didn't say a word. She just turned and looked out the window again, watching the red and blue lights bounce off the lobby tiles. In a quiet cafe 3 blocks away, I set my phone down gently after scrolling past the same email Paula had just received. My inbox was chaos. 37 new messages. Subject lines like urgent, shutdown compliance, and please call ASAP. I didn't. I flipped the phone over again. Let them boil. The boardroom was dead silent, except for the faint hum of the projector fan and the soft click of the inspector's pen as he scrawled something on the shutdown acknowledgement form. Half the executives were still in shock, jaws slack, while the other half were in full-blown calculation mode, trying to figure out just how far this blast radius extended and whether their own names were about to be splattered across it. Then, from the far end of the polished walnut table, the elevator dinged, every head turned. Footsteps echoed outside, measured, heavy, decisive. The boardroom door opened, and in walked Richard Harrow, chairman of the board. He didn't wait to be greeted. He didn't sit. He simply stood in the doorway, lips pressed into a line so tight it could have sliced through glass. His flight from New York had landed 20 minutes early. The man moved like someone who already knew he was walking into a funeral but didn't know if it was his. He took one look around the room, at the faces drained of color, the state officers collecting signatures, the inspector holding a leather binder fat with closure notices, and finally at Jordan. Then he saw the badges. 2 more enforcement agents had entered the lobby. One of them clipped a suspension notice to the fire safety board. Another was checking the electrical panel like he was prepping the place for a full blackout. Harrow walked slowly to the window, lifted the curtain with one hand, watched the police lights dance across the company logo etched in the front glass. Then, without turning around, he spoke. His voice was calm, measured, the kind of quiet that makes grown men sweat through their shoes. "Who the hell did we just fire?" The question landed like a punch to the chest. Jordan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Not a word, not a breath, just silence. The room remained frozen, executives stiff in their chairs, managers half-standing, legal clutching binders that now felt like sandbags. Even the inspector paused mid-signature to look up. The company's general counsel, seated closest to the chairman, fumbled his Montblanc pen. It clattered against the table, bounced once, and rolled until it hit the floor with a soft metallic clink. No one moved to pick it up. Harrow turned slowly, eyes scanning the faces of people who suddenly looked very small in their tailored suits. His gaze landed back on Jordan. Well, Jordan tried again. She was just compliance. She managed, oversight, licensing, admin stuff, nothing irreplaceable. Melissa stepped forward. Her voice was quiet, but there was steel behind it. She wasn't just compliance, she was the license. Jordan turned to her, eyes wide. She held the named operator credential, the one tied to the statutory authority to run facilities in 3 states, she continued. And she revoked it the minute you showed her the door. The blood drained from Jordan's face so fast it looked like someone had turned off the valve. He sank into his chair like his spine had gone on strike. Harrow exhaled through his nose, slow and sharp. "And you didn't think to check," he said, barely above a whisper. "You didn't think to read the memo she sent 2 years ago? The one I responded to?" Jordan blinked. A faint wheeze escaped his throat. Melissa handed Harrow the memo. He took it, scanned it, his mouth tightened. Then he looked back at the inspector. "What happens now?" The inspector didn't sugarcoat it. "Your facilities are shut until a new license is approved. Could take weeks, months if the audits uncover gaps. Fines are accruing. Contracts will be breached. Legal liabilities substantial. And what if we reinstate the previous license holder? She'd have to apply from scratch. That process doesn't bend for panic." Harrow nodded once, almost imperceptibly. The silence returned, heavier than before. Then Harrow did something that chilled everyone. He laughed, but it wasn't humor. It was fury wrapped in disbelief, sanded down by exhaustion. He looked Jordan dead in the eye. "You fired the fireproof paint because it didn't sparkle in the sunlight." Jordan's lips quivered. I didn't know, no, Harrow said, stepping toward him. You didn't ask. You thought titles were interchangeable. You thought decades of infrastructure could be deleted like a spreadsheet row. Another knock at the door. This time, it was the client liaison from our biggest government contract. Face ashen, voice tight. We've got DC on the line, she whispered. They're pulling our active clearance until the licensing situation is resolved. Harrow closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was no emotion left, just cold leadership. Get out, he said to Jordan. What? You heard me, Harrow said without raising his voice. Step out of this room, and pray to God she answers your next call. Jordan stood on legs made of damp spaghetti, shuffled toward the door. But he knew, everyone knew, I wouldn't be answering. The shutdown order took less than 12 minutes to roll through the system. 12 minutes to undo 20 years of infrastructure. 12 minutes to pull the plug on multimillion-dollar contracts, to halt production lines mid-cycle, to silence conference rooms that had, hours ago, buzzed with fake optimism and foam latte leadership. First came the inspectors, clipboards in hand, reciting regulation codes like funeral prayers. Then the police cordoning off entrances, sealing dock doors, escorting contractors out with curt nods and apologies written in badge numbers. Bakersfield went dark. Santa Fe followed. Columbus locked its gates before lunch. The phones melted down under the weight of client outrage and cancellation demands. PR sent out a panicked draft statement, but no one could agree on a lie coherent enough to save face. By 12:47 p.m., the company's legal team had submitted an emergency injunction to delay the freeze. It was rejected in 9 minutes. At 1:04, our stock ticked red. By 1:17, it had dropped 6 points. By 1:42, the accounting lead confirmed a projected revenue loss in the high 8 figures, just for today. And at 2:05 p.m., Jordan Pembroke was quietly escorted out through the service hallway by building security. No cameras, no drama, just the sound of his $600 loafers echoing against tile floors he would never walk again. He wasn't technically fired. Not yet. Harrow was smarter than that. Letting him twist in silence was more effective. No announcement, no blame-shifting email. Just exile. That kind of quiet only means one thing in corporate: you're done, but we want you to feel it first. At 3:22 p.m., my phone rang, unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then it rang again. Paula this time, the chairman's assistant. Caller ID lit up politely like nothing had burned to the ground. I answered. Hi, Diana, she began, voice gentle, like she was calling a hospice patient. Mr. Harrow was hoping to speak with you. He'd like to explore options if you're open to it. Consulting work, maybe an interim reinstatement. I let the silence stretch long enough to be uncomfortable. Listened to the nervous breath on the other end of the line, then I answered, you'll need a new license. A beat passed. I could almost hear her blink. I see, is that, and I suggest. I continued, you read the statute this time. Page 12. Click. I didn't slam the phone. I just set it gently beside me on the porch table. The garden was unusually still that afternoon. Even the birds seemed to know something had shifted. I sat there in my old wicker chair, the one with the squeaky armrest and the faded cushion, sipping Earl Grey from a chipped mug that said Compliance Queen in glitter vinyl. The sun warmed the back of my neck. A soft breeze rustled through the hydrangeas. It smelled like cut grass and vindication. My phone buzzed again, 3 times in a row. Emails, messages, a LinkedIn connection request from someone in PR, probably trying to save their job by pretending we used to be friends. I flipped the phone over, screen down, let them sweat. For 20 years, I carried the burden of that license like a silent pact. I held the line through mergers, audits, crises, and egos dressed in Armani. They thought my silence meant weakness, that my humility meant I could be replaced. But today, they learned the truth. I wasn't just a name on a form. I was the form. And now they can dig through the ashes and figure out what it costs to light a match with your eyes closed. Thanks for watching, you cubicle warriors. Hit that subscribe button. Unless you're my old boss, then you're on your own. Revenge of the coffee pot strikes again.